Have you ever had a dream that left you perplexed for the rest of your day? I have a recurring dream of my teeth falling out. According to Sigmund Freud, these nightly adventures reveal the deepest desires and fears hidden in your unconscious mind, a concept first introduced by the man known as the father of modern psychology. Freud's views challenged the positivist paradigm of his time, which emphasized faith in reason, empirical observation, and conscious rationality. He revolutionized how we understand the human mind. His theories have sparked debates, permeated literature, art, and pop culture, and spearheaded modern mental health. So he's definitely worth getting to know. Freud wrote countless books, essays, and lectures across his lifespan. In just 15 minutes, this video will present an overview of his upbringing and career, his theory of personality, and his contribution to psychology and mental health today. Sigmund Freud was born in 1856 in what is now Pribor, Czech Republic. His early life, as we will find out, set the stage for his groundbreaking work in psychoanalysis. The Freud family moved to Vienna when Sigmund was 4. Despite facing financial hardships, Freud's brilliance shone early. He excelled in his studies, displaying a voracious appetite for knowledge. In 1873, Freud went on to study medicine at the University of Vienna. Freud's journey into the depths of the human psyche began with his fascination with the brain and neurology. However, it was his collaboration with Joseph Breuer on the study of hysteria that truly set the stage for his later work. Together, they explored the idea that talking could cure psychological distress, a method they called talking therapy. Freud's personal life and professional journey were deeply intertwined. The death of his father in 1896 marked a turning point, leading him to analyze his childhood relationships with his parents and how the relationships influenced his unconscious mind and behavior. It was through this introspection that Freud developed his most controversial and influential ideas that would both scandalize and captivate the intellectual world. Vienna remained Freud's home until the dark shadow of Nazism forced him to flee to London in 1938. Even as he battled cancer, Freud continued to write and explore the human condition until his death in 1939. So, what were these progressive ideas that Freud introduced, and how have they shaped our understanding of human behavior and personality? We're about to find out the key aspects of Freud's psychoanalytic theory, that is, the unconscious mind, psychosexual stages of development, the structure of personality, and defense mechanisms. At the heart of Freud's theory lies the unconscious mind, a vast reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories outside of our conscious awareness. Much of the contents of the unconscious are socially unacceptable to the conscious mind. Freud believed that the unconscious mind influences much of our behavior and experiences without our awareness. The pleasure principle is a central focus in the unconscious. It refers to seeking pleasure by expelling unpleasurable mounting tension. The premise of the psychosexual stages of development is that each stage of development is marked by the child deriving pleasure from various parts of the body. If there is an overindulgence or neglect of pleasure at different stages of development, this can lead to fixations that are repressed and stored in the unconscious mind, influencing behavior and personality in ways beyond our conscious awareness. This theory answers why some people constantly chew on pens or bite their nails without noticing, why some people are messy and rebellious while others are clean and orderly, and even provides an explanation of the root cause of toxic masculinity and women's sense of inferiority to men. The oral stage centers on the mouth, skin, and thumb as the primary source of pleasures when activities such as sucking, biting, and breastfeeding are crucial. Fixations formed by pleasure at this stage may lead to habits like nail biting, smoking, or overeating in adulthood. During the toilet training years, pleasure focuses on the bowel and anus. Challenges in this stage can result in either extremes of orderliness and cleanliness or messiness and rebelliousness in adulthood. During the phallic stage, the focus of pleasure shifts to the genitals. Freud discussed the Oedipus complex during this stage, where boys develop unconscious sexual desires for their mother and jealousy towards their father. Girls experience penis envy upon realizing that they do not have a penis, which leads to feelings of inferiority and jealousy towards males. Fixation can lead to excessive masculinity in males and the need for attention or domination in females. Sexual impulses are repressed during the latency stage, and the focus is on social interactions, hobbies, and developing skills. Freud suggested that sexual energy is sublimated into socially acceptable activities like schoolwork and friendships. Sexuality emerges at puberty with the reawakening of sexual instincts towards the opposite sex and the mature adult personality, with a balance between the various life areas. So, the psychosexual stages of development provide a foundation upon which the structure of personality is built. How does this personality structure influence daily life? Freud likened the human psyche to a constant battleground with three forces in play: the id, ego, and superego. The id is present from birth. It's the source of basic drives and operates on the pleasure principle. In the early stages of development, the oral, anal, and phallic, the id is dominant as the child seeks immediate gratification for their desires and needs. The ego begins to develop during the anal stage as the child learns to deal with the demands of reality and the need for delayed gratification. Emerging around the phallic stage, the superego operates on the moral principle, the internalized societal rules and moral standards inherited from parents and society. It strives to control the id's impulses, particularly those that are socially frowned upon. It operates in the conscious and unconscious mind. Have you ever been on a diet? If so, Freud might say that is their superego's influence. So during that diet, did you ever crave a piece of cake or sweets? That would be the id's desires. The way you would balance this tension build up is through the ego, as it mediates possibly deciding you can have a small piece to satisfy the craving without fully abandoning the diet. According to Freud, this dynamic shapes our personality, thoughts, behaviors, and conflicts. Defense mechanisms protect the conscious mind from contradictions between the animalistic id and the idealistic superego. These are unconscious psychological strategies that people use to protect themselves from anxiety, threats to self esteem, and things they don't want to think or deal with. They do this by distorting, denying, or otherwise manipulating reality. For example, repression, primary defense mechanism, involves pushing threatening or disturbing thoughts, feelings, or desires from conscious awareness into the unconscious. Other defense mechanisms like projection, which is attributing one's own unacceptable desires to others, denial, refusing to acknowledge reality, and rationalization, offering reasonable explanations for irrational behavior. And they serve to manage the content of the unconscious and reduce psychological discomfort. There's a list of Freud's main defense mechanisms and examples here, so you can pause the video and check them out if you want. So what do you think about Freud's theory? Do some parts resonate more than others? Next, we'll answer how Freud's ideas held up under scientific inquiry. Where have researchers challenged his conclusions? The true measure of any modern scientific theory lies in its ability to withstand the scrutiny of empirical evidence. We'll cover three common criticisms of Freud's theory, that is, refutability, cultural relevance, and an overemphasis on sexuality. Freud relied upon case studies and introspection to inform his theories. Case studies are typically not favored in scientific research because they focus on individual or small group experiences. This limits their ability to be generalized to larger populations. For example, studying the recovery of one person from a psychological disorder might provide deep insights into their treatment response, but it doesn't offer reliable data to predict outcomes for all people with that disorder. Likewise, introspection is not considered a scientific form of knowledge because it relies on subjective self observation, which cannot be objectively measured or independently verified. The advantages and limitations of introspection were covered in more depth in the first video in this series, so check that out if you haven't already. Freud's theory is not falsifiable. A criterion for a scientific hypothesis is that it must be able to be proven false under certain conditions. Freud's theories, including his concepts of the unconscious, id, ego, and superego, largely rely on internal psychological processes that are not directly observable or measurable in ways that can be clearly refuted. For example, the nature of the unconscious means it operates outside of conscious awareness. This raises a fundamental question. How can we empirically measure desires and fears that even the individual is not aware of? Certain aspects of the psychosexual stages of development are not applicable in the real world. While innovative, they have also been criticized for their emphasis on the sexual motivations in early childhood as the primary drivers of personality development. Critics argue that this theory overlooks the complexity of human growth and the impact of later life experiences. For example, The idea that toilet training in childhood is tied to an anal fixation causing cleanliness or rebelliousness in adulthood is intuitively oversimplified. Finally, Freud's theories have been criticized for their cultural and gender biases. His views were heavily influenced by the patriarchal and heteronormative societal norms of his time. For instance, Freud's concept of penis envy has been seen as inherently gender biased, suggesting that women are defined psychologically by the fact that they aren't men. Furthermore, his representation of women as being less morally mature than men, with less developed superegos, has been criticized as reflecting the treatment of women as second-class citizens in Victorian society. Freud's patients were mostly women, and his case study of 18-year-old Dora is often cited as an acute example of his gender bias. Despite the debates over the scientific rigor of his work and his biases, Freud's impact on Western culture can't be overstated. His insistence on the psychological roots of mental illness catalyzed a shift from purely somatic interpretations of mental health to more nuanced understandings that encompass both mind and body. Freud's insights into the unconscious inspired many branches in psychology. His talking therapy paved the way for the wide variety of talking therapies used today in counseling, psychology, and psychiatry. The therapeutic benefits of talking therapy have been empirically validated. Cognitive psychology is founded upon Freud's concept of the unconscious mind. It is the study of how people think and process information and helps researchers understand the human brain. It involves the study of conscious and unconscious mental processes, all of the workings inside your brain, including perception, thinking, memory, attention, language, problem solving, and learning. While Freud's psychosexual stages have no empirical basis, his theory did pave the way for developmental psychologists who followed in his footsteps by investigating the significance of childhood experiences and their lasting impact on adult personality and behavior. There is strong scientific evidence for attachment theory and the long term effects of attachment styles in infants, that is, secure, anxious avoidant, and anxious resistant. Freud's defense mechanisms formed the basis of Harvard psychiatrist George Valent's categorization of the defense mechanisms in the 1970s. Valent developed scales to empirically measure defense mechanisms, and since then they've been extensively researched and directly linked to our well-being and mental health. On a side note, while researching for this video, I found a link to a defense style questionnaire which calculates your score, so the link is in the description if you want to have a look at that. So, as you now know, Freud's emphasis on the unconscious challenged the dominant 19th century belief that people could ascertain real knowledge through conscious reasoning. As a result, early childhood relationships and the hidden psychological forces of the unconscious have become a focus of psychology and personality development. Our next video will unveil the mysterious theories and methods of one of Freud's proteges, Carl Jung. So subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out.